Clark bursts into the Kent farmhouse, telling Martha that she needs to leave. Before he can finish talking, however, Non flies through the wall and tackles him through the other one. As Superman and Non clash, Zod and Ursa float through the broken wall, glaring down at Martha. Zod glances around the house, noticing framed pictures and other mementos. Ah, his guardian. I never had the chance to deal with his real mother, so I suppose you'll have to do. His eyes glow red. Clark pushes Non off of himself and flies towards Zod. He carries him away, punching him repeatedly in the face as he does. Ursa and Non follow after them, but Ursa stops, having spotted something hidden in the barn with her X-ray vision while tracking the direction the combatants were going. Do not threaten my mother! The fight is taken to the streets of Smallville. For the first time, we see Superman angry, and even Zod is taken aback. So you do have some strength in you after all. Good. It will make this far more satisfying. The two engage in fisticuffs. Zod is clearly the better combatant, but Clark has a greater grasp of his abilities, making them near to evenly matched at this point in the film. However, each time Clark pulls a move that Zod does not recognize, the General replicates that same move, learning from every shared blow. Non arrives and joins in the fight. The military, having been tipped off to this altercation, is sent to Smallville to investigate. Zod, hearing the helicopters coming, aims his laser vision at them, destroying one and causing another to spiral out of control. Superman flies up to save whoever he can, but his cape is grabbed by Non, who begins throwing him around. After being flung into the air, Superman course corrects and is able to catch the falling copter. Zod is about to attack him while he's distracted, but Ursa arrives with the ship Clark arrived in. It survived. Is the drive intact? Ursa confirms that it is. It would seem that we're finished here. Ursa asks if they should kill Superman. No. Let him see his new home fall to true Kryptonian might before we finish him. The three of them take to the skies as Superman sets the copter down. He rushes back to the Kent farm and finds Martha alive, but the ship gone. He is confused as to why they would need that, then has a horrifying realization before flying northwards to the Fortress of Solitude. Zod, Ursa, and Non return to their crashed ship to begin salvaging what equipment they will need. Using their heat vision to weld the ship together, they are able to get it airborne again and hook Clark's ship up to its systems. Missing or damaged components are replaced by those from Clark's ship, all but the Phantom Drive, which is converted into a Phantom projector. The environmental controls that kept out the sun's radiation are deactivated, allowing the Kryptonians to retain their powers while aboard. Zod scans the globe for the largest nearby city, which is Metropolis. Set a course, Ursa. I have found our new Candor. The ship takes off towards Metropolis. Superman arrives at the fortress and enters. Jor-El! The image of Jor appears. I am here, Kal. My ship. Did it have a Phantom Drive? Yes. It was outfitted with a drive to make your journey as short as possible. No. Zod has it. Zod. He's here. He's on Earth. Him and two others. Ursa, one was called. The other one was big and didn't talk. Ursa and Non. Zod's most loyal lieutenants. His lover and his former mentor. But how are they here? The fortress, it ripped a hole in his prison. Something about a beacon. By Rao. But why did he want your ship? He wants the drive to free the rest of his army from the Phantom Zone. An army of Kryptonians, powered by Earth's sun, all under Zod's control. You cannot let him succeed, Kal. I know that! But how am I supposed to stop him? Together, all three of them are more powerful than me. Even individually, Zod was as strong as me and only seemed to be getting stronger with every blow. Zod's weakness is his pride. He believes himself superior even to his fellow Kryptonians, due to his bloodline. Ursa believes herself his equal, but she is deluding herself. Her fanatical devotion to him is her weakness. Non's mind was weakened as a result of experimentation. He was immensely strong even on Krypton, but he is unintelligent, easily manipulated into making mistakes. You can defeat them, Kal. You can save Earth from Krypton's fate. Superman takes a deep breath, taking in Jor-El's words. If nothing else, I have to try. He takes off. Jor-El watches him go, then shuts off. Back in Metropolis, Lois returns to the planet. Perry and the others grill her, and she hands over her tape recorder. Because, fun fact for all you non-comic nerds, Lois Lane has dyslexia and dysgraphia. She has both difficulty reading and spelling. She's still somewhat perturbed by the fact that Swanwick handed Superman over to Zod. Despite her typical cynicism, she genuinely believed what Superman says. Jimmy offhandedly asks where Clark is, but before anyone can answer, the ground seems to shake. Lois runs over to the window and sees Zod's ship fly past. Clark returns to the crash site and finds that Zod's ship is not present. He takes off again, trying to follow its trail. He discovers that the trail leads to Metropolis and jets off in that direction. The camera lingers on the crater and zooms in on flecks of a glowing green mineral that the ship left behind. Foreshadowing. Back in Metropolis. Power up the phantom projector. Ursa turns the device on and it begins to warm up. Swanwick sends the military in to attack the ship. None with me. Let us deal with these pests. The two of them fly out and engage the fighter jets and helicopters. Debris from the destroyed vehicles crashes down on the city below. Pedestrians scatter, but not all are lucky enough to survive. One of the planes fires a missile at Zod, but after it explodes, the Kryptonian general emerges from the smoke, laughing. Back at Swanwick's HQ, the mission leaders are in a frenzy. Nothing we have is phasing them. I hope to God we don't have to use nukes, but at this point I'm not sure what other option we have. Hamilton is aghast at the thought. Fortunately, it never becomes more than a thought, as one of the analysts detects something else entering Metropolis airspace. A red and blue blur flies through the air, catching a piece of fuselage that was crashing down on a mother and her kid. The woman looks up to see Superman, who sets the debris down, waves at the child, then flies upwards. He tackles Non just before he smashes through another jet. Zod narrows his eyes as he sees the red of Superman's cape. Kal-El. He flies towards the ship. Ursa, how close are we? She shows him that the drive is 50% powered up. Let's see if we can give it a little more power. He walks over to the console and begins transferring energy from auxiliary systems to the phantom projector. As a bit of extra pettiness, he activates the ship's automated weapons and programs it to start bombarding the city. Missiles, lasers, and energy bolts emerge from the ship, striking the city below. This is mostly a fear tactic, as Zod is not aiming at any one or thing in particular. The Daily Planet crew bear witness to the destruction and evacuate the building just to be safe. Whole skyscrapers are brought down to dust by the attack. Though I'm not going to have Metropolis be entirely destroyed in this battle, like in the original movie, the villains are still going to villain, so we need some destruction. One of the buildings that is struck is a Wayne Enterprises building. That will be important in a later movie. Superman sees the destruction and turns his attention from Non to the ship. Zod sees him approaching, however, and flies out to meet him. You can't stop my triumph, Kal-El. This world will be mine. You couldn't conquer Krypton, Zod. You won't conquer Earth either. And who's going to stop me? You? The two clash in midair. Zod cares little for collateral damage, but Superman is quite the opposite. Clark tries to steer the fight as far above the city as he can, but he is not versed in that sort of thing, allowing Zod to control the fight. In essence, to avoid one of the most controversial parts of the movie, I am swapping the main battle with Zod to before the Phantom implosion. Which brings me to said controversial topic, Superman killing Zod. Everyone has been divided on this moment since the day this movie came out, with people being enraged at it happening and others insisting that it made perfect sense. There were, of course, the Snyder Bros who claimed that everyone who disliked it needed to grow up and stop living in Fantasyland, and the people who reacted to that by calling all Snyder Bros edgy losers. I don't entirely disagree with that last point, but it's far from a constructive analysis. Allow me to break it down. First, did Superman truly have no other choice? In that particular moment, absolutely not. Covering Zod's eyes, suplexing Zod, taking off into the air. There were several other options available to Superman, let me repeat, Superman, in that moment. However, that is rarely what defenders of this movie mean when they say that. Typically, they mean that Superman had no choice but to end the fight right then and there so that it would not keep going, and that the events of the death scene were simply the straw that broke the camel's back. Zod even says that he will not stop. So, if this is your argument, I can understand it. But neither side of this argument understands the real problem with this scene. That it happened in the first place. Allow me to explain. Though both sides of the he didn't have a choice argument do have points, they fail to acknowledge that Superman should never have been put in this position to begin with, by the writers. It is a fundamental failing on Zack Snyder's part that he keeps putting characters like Batman and Superman in positions where they must compromise on or ignore their values, not because it makes for good storytelling, see the ending of The Dark Knight for a good example of this, but because it subverts expectations, because Zack Snyder doesn't believe in heroes. He always talks about how in his movies, dark stuff can and will happen, such as Batman being violated in prison, which is disgusting. Why did he even bring that up in an interview? The superhero fantasy of a hero who defies all odds and always strives to do the right thing isn't the kind of hero Zack Snyder likes. He likes the edgelords, the ones who could be a villain if the story changed even slightly. And there is a place for stories like that. I like Breaking Bad. I like American Psycho. I like Watchmen. But I don't want Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, or any of these other heroes to be put in a story like that. I don't want Superman to be deconstructed. I don't want his no-kill policy to be based on guilt. Superman is supposed to be a character to aspire to, one who tries his damnedest to do the right thing. Sure, he'll make mistakes. Sure, he'll get angry. Maybe he'll even cross the line from time to time, but he always course corrects. He always gets back up and tries again. The evil Superman plague is a trend I am so glad to see die, because it fundamentally misunderstood this character for the sake of being cool and edgy. Sure, I don't want Mr. Perfect Superman who can do no wrong. That's boring. But there is a middle ground between Gary Stu / Mary Sue and Edgy McEdgerton. This is why I often say I love Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings movies. Yes, it is time for our allotted discussion of Lord of the Rings per video. In the books, Aragorn is a nearly perfect man. He is a paragon of good, and he is good because the story says he is good. This is because Tolkien was writing the archetype of the chivalric hero, the King Arthur, the knight in shining armor, even if his armor wasn't shiny at first. The films gave Aragorn humanity. He was still as good and honorable as the character in the books, but at the start, he doubted himself and his heritage. He feared corruption. He didn't trust the race of men. He had to overcome those things to become the High King. He wasn't already that dude from the first moment we meet him. Aragorn at the beginning of the books and at the end of the books is the same guy. He is a static character, which is not always a problem, by the way. Aragorn at the beginning versus end of the films, however, is a very different character. His core values and personality are the same, but he is more bold. He is proud of his heritage. He treats the race of men with honor. He stands in the face of corruption and defies it. He is a dynamic character. From his friendship with Boromir, to his alliance with Theoden, and finally to receiving Andoril and declaring himself Isildur's heir, it is one of my favorite character arcs in fiction. It elevated a great character and made him an amazing character. This should not be difficult to translate an arc like that to a character like Superman, who, much like Aragorn, was originally good because the story said he was good. In fact, the comics have been writing Superman like that since the 70s. The animated series did it in the 90s. The new movie just did it a few months ago. The Christopher Reeve movies did it. Zack Snyder didn't have to put Superman in the Watchmen universe. He didn't have to turn him into this stoic, humorless character who prioritizes looking cool over saving lives. And he didn't have to deconstruct him by having him kill someone. Justified or not, Superman should not do that. And before anyone says it, yes, I disliked it in Superman 2 as well. I much prefer the alternate ending of that movie, even though for the most part, I like it. Zod could easily have been written to be sucked into the Phantom Zone with the others, and honestly, it would have made more sense if he was, but he wasn't. Because Zack wanted to deconstruct Superman, because he couldn't see any other way to make Superman interesting other than making him darker. That is the problem. That they kept Zod around, so Superman had to kill him. Anyway, Back to the story. Sorry for the rant. While Superman and Zod duke it out, Clark doing everything in his power to avoid collateral damage, Lois and Jimmy try to get a vantage point, despite Perry's protests. This is the kind of thing I love about the character of Lois Lane. The main reason why she's in danger so often in the comics and cartoons is because she puts herself there. Lois is so stubborn and has such little regard for her own life that it makes it easy for villains to capture or hurt her. It's character-based, and I love that. She's not put in danger because she's the love interest, but because of her personality and characterization, and, well, that's exactly what's happening here. She's rushing into a war zone between two demigods and dragging her photographer behind her. Poor Jimmy. Unfortunately for them, it's not just two demigods, as Non returns to the fray. Flying past, he knocks Lois off of the building she climbed atop. Superman hears her screaming and flies down to help her. Zod sneers at this. "Your compassion for these lesser beings makes you weak, Kal-El." He flies down and grabs Lois before Superman can catch her, grabbing her by the arm and holding her above the city. He nods to Non, who grabs Jimmy. Lois struggles against Zod's grip, but to no avail. "Let them go, Zod." "As you wish." He and Non release their captives, who begin to fall. Yes, I pulled a Dark Knight Joker, so sue me. Superman follows Jimmy and Lois, but is knocked off course by Non. Zod flies back up to the ship. He looks in at Ursa through the windscreen, who nods. He gives her a signal, and the phantom projector activates. A deafening sound wave pulses through the city as a hole is torn in reality. Imagine something similar to the ending of Spider-Man No Way Home, but with a single tear localized to where the ship is, rather than one that fills the entire sky. Superman breaks free from Non, and he is just able to save Lois and Jimmy. He sets them down a few blocks away and looks up at the tear in the sky. What's happening?" "The Phantom Zone. Zod's bringing his army here." Lois realizes that he means an army of Kryptonians. "So they can all do what you do?" "As soon as the sun touches them, they'll gain my powers." He turns to look at them. "Stay as far away from the ship as you can. I have to close the portal before it's too late." Lois cheekily tells him not to die, and Superman flies off. Heroic music swells as he soars through the air. "Zod!" Zod turns to look and cracks his neck. "Just like your father, you never know when to give up." He, Non, and Ursa, who doesn't need to man the drive anymore, fly towards him. Superman banks upwards just before collision. He notices the looming shape of Fort Roz appear in the tear in the sky. He flies back down, past Zod and Ursa, and strikes Non hard, drawing his attention. Non, in a fury, chases after him more fervently. Superman positions himself between Non and the ship. Zod realizes what's happening. "Non! No!" It is too late. Non flies full bore at Superman. Clark dodges at the last second, and Non punches through the ship, striking the Phantom reactor. As the drive loses functionality, the rip in reality begins to fold back in on itself, sucking the damaged ship and Non inside almost instantly. Zod and Ursa attempt to escape the gravitational pull. Zod is able to escape the stream, but Ursa grabs onto his cape, begging him to save her. He cruelly tears the cape out of her hands as she is sucked back into the Phantom Zone. He watches dispassionately. Before he can get more distance, Superman flies at him. Both end up caught in the gravitational stream, fighting against each other in the pull of the collapsing wormhole. Lois and Jimmy watch as two figures battle in the wake of this anomaly. "I will not be denied again!" He fires at Superman with his heat vision, Clark realizing that he may need to sacrifice himself to save Metropolis. He grabs hold of Zod, and instead of flying away from the portal, he flies towards it. Zod strikes him repeatedly, but Superman does not relent. When they draw near to the portal, Superman kicks off of Zod and sends his enemy into the void. Zod screams in rage. "Kal-El!" Superman uses what remains of his strength to fight against the pull of the portal. It seems that our hero is doomed as well as our villains. But just as hope seems lost, the portal collapses in on itself, and gravity returns to normal. Superman, unable to course correct, hits the ground hard, leaving a crater. As he gets to his feet in the crater, Lois, Jimmy, and other citizens of Metropolis approach. Superman looks around. The city is damaged, but intact. There is no sign of Zod or his cronies, save some small chunks of debris from his ship that weren't sucked in. Lois approaches Superman. He smiles at her before taking off. She watches him leave and puts her hands on her hips. Despite herself, a slight smile tugs at the corners of her lips. In the aftermath of the battle, Superman helps the citizens of Metropolis to rebuild. LexCorp is integral in the building efforts, and we see chunks of the ship being secretly transported to secret facilities. Lex's agents also discover the crater outside of Metropolis with the green mineral and take that back for study. We see Lex sitting at his desk as reports come in. Savior of Metropolis. He's just another alien, just like the others. They'll see soon enough. And if they don't, well, then I'll have to show them. Superman has the same altercation with Swanwick as he has in the original movie, with the military sending a UAV after him and him destroying it. We then see him returning to work. Lois tells Clark that he's too late to poach the Superman story. Well, better luck next time, I suppose. The Kent farmhouse and barn are rebuilt, partially with help by Superman, partially by the Smallville community. Martha tells Clark that she's proud of him, and that Jonathan would be too. In the final scene, Clark returns to the Fortress of Solitude. You've done it, my son. More than your mother and I could ever have dreamed. No, I'm not done yet. Zod's not the end of it. No. The universe is vast, and there are enemies you have yet to meet, both out there and on Earth itself. You'll still be here if I need you, right? No, Cal. I was only meant to guide you. Now that you've found your place, my programming is fulfilled. Do not mourn. I died decades ago, Cal. This, it's but an echo. But, even so, I know that Jor-El would be proud of the man you've become. Goodbye, Clark. With that, Jor's hologram fades. In his place, a holographic library of Krypton's history and knowledge. Superman closes the hologram, deciding to return to it later. We get one final flight, following Superman from the Arctic to the skyline of Metropolis to the skies over Kansas. The camera zooms in on the symbol on his chest, and we go to the credits. In a post-credit stinger, the next movie is teased, as we see Planet Oa, headquarters of the Green Lantern Corps. Abin Sur, Green Lantern of Sector 2814, speaks with his colleague, Sinestro of Korrigar. Earth, Abin Sur. That is where the beacon came from, Sinestro, and I doubt we were the only ones to notice it. A primitive world. They know nothing of the wider universe. Even so, it is a part of my sector. I have a duty to even the most primitive of species. So be it, old friend. Until I return, Sinestro. Farewell. Abin Sur makes his way to the ship. Sinestro watches him depart, gaining a sinking feeling that he will never see his old friend again. And with that, we bring this movie to an end. Thank you all for joining me on my quest. If you enjoyed the video and like what I do here, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. If you'd like to support the channel further, consider joining the Nice Realm Patreon or becoming a member here on YouTube for $1 or $1.99 a month respectively, and get access to exclusive content, including videos not available on the main channel, supercuts of my rewrites, and scripts of my rewrites. More of that will be coming soon. Alternatively, if you'd like to vote on future video or series topics, you can join at $5 or $5.99 a month. If you'd just like to make a one-time donation, you can always leave a super thanks in the comments below. In any case, I will see you all on our next adventure, whenever that may be.